welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 521 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, not really asking you to agree with me, I'm asking you to hear me out. Last episode, I started my NFL divisional breakdown before the season starts, and I started with the AFC South. Today, I wanted to talk about the AFC East. To me, this is the most foregone conclusion division in all of football. To me, it's three teams and then one very superior team, and obviously we'll talk about it, but I'm going to start with the New York Jets. And trust me, the New York Jets is not that one team I'm talking about. I'm sure everyone knows the team, but we'll talk about it once I get there. I was very vocal in expressing my displeasure when I found out that Justin Fields decided to sign with the New York Jets. I was expressing the fact that I wanted to see Justin Fields go to a situation where he can thoroughly, how do I say this? He can thoroughly show how talented he is. And I just didn't think the Jets, that didn't have a really good offensive line, had a terrible defense last year, especially towards the end of the year. I just didn't think the Jets, that was the organization to really show and allow Justin Fields to put his best foot forward, to say the least. And then I thought about it. I sat on it. I looked at the roster. And I came to the conclusion that this is actually the perfect place for Justin Fields to be. If he is the quarterback that he feels he can be, if he is the quarterback that he projects himself to be, if he is that franchise quarterback that the Jets believe he is, this is the perfect place for him. Now, yes, I think he did have an ankle injury or pinky toe injury or something like that, so he should be good. But here's the thing. A couple episodes ago, we talked about the quarterback ranking and how I think ESPN did a quarterback tier list or rankings list, and I talked about the gap between the top four and everyone else. The top four, in no particular order, was Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And I said, while someone like Jaden Daniels, maybe someone like Matthew Stafford can be in that fifth spot, there is a wide gap between the fourth and fifth. Well, a quarterback that I don't think was anywhere close to the top 10 in those rankings was Justin Fields, and rightfully so. Justin Fields really wasn't able to put his best foot forward when he was with Chicago. You see, we get spoiled a lot by good quarterback play. We get spoiled watching the Patrick Mahomeses. We get spoiled watching the Lamar Jacksons. We get spoiled watching quarterbacks that can overcome bad situations. Not saying that the Baltimore Ravens is a bad situation. Not saying that the Kansas City Chiefs are a bad situation. But you have to be a special type of talent to be able to outplay bad situations. You don't see it too often because we talk about it. Football is the ultimate team sport, and it is extremely difficult for one person. Just how great. Perfect example. I know it's a completely different position, and we'll talk about them probably next episode. But it's almost no question that Miles Garrett is the best defensive player in football. You can argue maybe someone like TJ Watt. You can argue maybe someone like Michael Parsons. But more people are going to say that Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in all of football. And again, I know that it's two different positions, but I'm kind of saying the same thing. Even having the best player on one side of the ball in all of football doesn't mean that he can overcome poor quarterback play or injuries or poor coaching. That's one reason why, as great as Myles Garrett is, he hasn't really accomplished anything outside of singular awards. Or let me back up. He has accomplished singular things, but as a team, the Cleveland Browns hasn't done anything with the best defensive player in football. It is almost impossible for one player to, even at the quarterback position, we've seen it a couple times, but even in those times, they may have won games, they may have made to the playoffs, but I don't know a team. If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone put in the comments. I don't know a team that is or a player that has been to a terrible situation, a bad coaching situation, bad team, and not just superseded that, but won and advanced deep in the playoffs and even made it to a Super Bowl. I don't know that. So when Justin Fields, I went all the way around to say that. When Justin Fields was in Chicago, you just didn't have a good offensive line. You didn't really have weapons for him. And the coaching staff was so inconsistent, he wasn't really able to show what he can do. And then when he went to Pittsburgh, I thought that was a perfect situation. You have a great coach, you have a good culture, but then they ultimately bring in Russell Wilson, and you essentially lose your spot. This is different. You are the guy. You have a number one receiver in Garrett Wilson. You have a really good defense. Because a lot of the reasons why the defense was so poor last year is because they were on the field so much because the offense was so inept. And I think the offense that's the one thing that I don't like about the Jets is the offensive line. Their offensive line, I know that they made some tweaks this offseason, but the offense, that's one of the biggest reasons why the Aaron Rodgers tenured the Aaron Rodgers tenured in New York wasn't good because they spent so much and invested so much on the defense, and they whiffed damn near everywhere else as far as offensive line. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm getting at is this. We are truly about to see. And I think that, I know it's hard. Justin Fields has been in the league, 5, 6, maybe 7 years? I know it's hard I talk about this a lot with Russell Westbrook, man. You are what you are. It's very hard for someone to be deep in their career, almost, 5, 6 years in. And, in fact, how many seasons has Justin Fields been in the league? I am curious in that. 5 years. Okay, so you're 5 years in. I'm not saying you can't change how you do things, but it's very hard when you have a structure and when you've been doing things the same for a minute. But we're really about to see if Justin Fields is a product of he was just in a bad situation and just a couple of bad situations, or is he really just an okay quarterback? Because an okay quarterback ain't and I talk about this a lot, gone are the days, because of just how good these teams are, because of how good these quarterbacks are, gone are the days where you can have a subpar quarterback, but everything around you is really good, and you still a Super Bowl caliber team. Like the 2000 Ravens, that's just not a thing anymore. Trent Dilfer ain't winning a Super Bowl. I don't care what defense you have in today's NFL. But I feel like you have good pieces, you have good weapons. Still gonna figure out what's gonna go. They still have to figure out what's gonna happen with Brees Hall, which I also think is crazy because you go from, I know injuries played a part, but you go from essentially leading in the rookie of the year for majority of the season until you get hurt to now. I don't really see him in the plans for the Jets moving forward, and it doesn't seem like they do either. Because every time they talk about him, it's they don't know. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good defense. Oh, Donovan Edwards on this team. Shout out to him. I think this is going to be a good defense. It's just I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be as blatantly honest as I can. I don't think Justin Fields is. I don't think he's as bad as people want. When you hear people talk about Justin Fields, they kind of talk about like he's like the worst quarterback in the league. I don't think he's that bad. But I think about what would happen if what I said I wanted from Justin Fields happened. Meaning, what happens if you put him on the perfect situation? I was thinking about what happens if you replace Justin Fields with Jalen Hurts. You have arguably, actually really unarguably, the best offensive line in football, probably the best weapons core when you talk about A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. You have an incredible defense. I was like, what happens if you throw Justin Fields on the best team in football? Do they look marginally better? Does he look better? And I would say yeah. But I don't think that he is better than Jalen Hurts. I don't think that he can be the sole reason why a team wins. I haven't seen that. And even in college, even he did go to a national championship. A lot of the mistakes that he made in college, whether you talk about decision making, some of his vision is kind of off at times. You still see that today. I don't think Justin Fields is. Maybe he's not. I don't think Justin Fields is as good as I think he could be. But we're going to see today, or we're going to see this year. You have a new head coach in Aaron Glenn, who comes from the great team that is Detroit as a coordinator. Again, you have a really good team. It's just, what are you able to do with this team? And I'm looking, it's a solid roster. So I think, and obviously, Lord forbid, you don't want anyone getting hurt. But I think that this is the situation that's going to show you either Justin Fields is really good, he just was in bad situations, or he's not as good as I may think he could be. We'll see. This is actually a bounce back. This is an important year for the Jets, man. I'm not saying that the Jets are Super Bowl contenders. I don't believe that. I don't even think that they're good enough to be second in their division, but it was last year. The Jets have the stench of not meeting or drastically not meeting expectations with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, and you think that one of the biggest reasons why Aaron Rodgers chose to go to the Jets is because he felt like it had everything that he needed to compete. You even brought in Devontae Adams. That didn't work. The defense was terrible at times. The offensive line was god-awful. Like, excuse me, I'm sorry. This is a year of redemption for the Jets, and again, I don't think that this team's even close to a championship caliber team, but you have to look better. You had and I'm not blaming the organization in a sense of you had a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you still look like the same old Jets. I think this is the time when you have to look. Things just have to come. Stars have to start aligning. You know what I mean? I know it's been a while, but we'll see. Speaking of we'll see, it is a very complicated tale when we talk about the Miami Dolphins. It's a very complicated tale because this team has so many branches to it, so many quote unquote storylines coming into this season. And in the same breath, I don't know anyone that believes that this team is a Super Bowl caliber team. Which I think is crazy because if you look, they have one of the best receiving cores. They have one of the best running back situations. They have one of the better offensive lines. I know that they gave up Jalen Ramsey, but their defense is okay, especially with Nick Chubb. Yet nobody expects this team to make any noise, and that is usually the case because that's what we've seen. Miami has always been that team where they are great or okay when they're all healthy in the regular season. It's just that when it comes to the playoffs, they're going to crumble. They're not built for the cold. I know it's not like it's not a pun in there. Miami, you see when they went against the Chiefs, it just didn't. I know it was like extreme cold. It was like 20 below, but still. But I want to focus on a couple of aspects. The first aspect I want to focus on is Tyreek Hill. It's difficult when you get spoiled. And what I mean by that is it's difficult when you get spoiled and then you go to a situation that you chose, might I add, but you go to a situation where it doesn't look the same. The same riches, the same spoils, the same success that you're used to isn't happening. Can you imagine going from a team that is a perennial Super Bowl powerhouse that has arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, even in a very short span, that has one of the best coaches of all time, and that will be competing for Super Bowls for years on end? You go from that to a team that really is electric in the regular season, is electric in a dome, is electric when the temperature is above 80 degrees, but the culture isn't there. There's not a championship culture. I understand. Let me also say, with me understanding, that doesn't mean that I agree. I understand the frustration that Tyreek Hill has maybe with himself and the decision that he made. Obviously, you chose money over winning, and there's nothing wrong with that. Football is still a business. But you have to understand, this is the decision that you made. We've talked about this. I'm not going to go in depth, but you went from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins. So again, I understand the frustration. What I do not understand and what I don't respect, and I think that can be or that has been an issue, is how vocal Tyreek Hill has been about his displeasures with the team and their lack of playoff contention. When he goes in the media, it seems like he double dutches whether he's going to request a trade or not. He's coming for, he's making top 5 lists and not including his quarterback. It's just a constant loop of Tyreek Hill saying things, Tyreek Hill actions that are essentially against the team. Again, when you go from being extremely spoiled to now not being spoiled and having to work hard, it's difficult. I'm not saying that Tyreek Hill didn't have to work hard, but there is a huge difference being in a Kansas City Chiefs organization than it is a Dolphins organization. And at some point, these players are so close. You're around these players, especially during the season, more than you're with your family. And you hear Tyreek or Tua Tagovailoa say it, you hear coaches say it. It's like a lot of the things that Tyreek Hill has done has kind of fractured his relationship with his quarterback, with his coach, with his teammates. And I'm not saying that you can't win you can't win when you don't like somebody. I mean, there's people you work with every day that you probably don't like, but you probably work well together because they're a good worker. Doesn't mean that you like them. But when you constantly take shots, it's like, all right, bro. Like, what? You constantly take shots, and then anytime the time comes where it's like, do you want to be traded? And I was like, nah, I was just in my emotions. Like, hold on, bro. This has happened multiple times. And don't get me wrong. Tyreek Hill isn't just a lone agent in feeling the way that he's felt. I'm sure that there are many people on this team that are frustrated with the lack of success that this team has seen in the playoffs. Again, this is a good team. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, this is a good team. But just because you're a good team doesn't necessarily mean that you're a Super Bowl caliber team. I think that's what a lot of people are finding out. Which brings me to, actually, no, last thing I'm going to say on that is, yes, I don't think Tyreek Hill is the only person that feels the way that he feels. But I am sure that he is the loudest person expressing that. And I don't think that's the smartest thing to do. Because just like I'm sure he's not the only one that thinks that, I'm sure people don't think that. I'm sure people think that they're in the greatest situation, so it could divide a locker room. Especially when you're talking about your teammate and your starting quarterback in Tua. Now, let me get to Tua. You know, I think one of the biggest issues isn't necessarily with Tua. It's expectations on who we think Tua is. Tua won a national championship or help Alabama win a national championship. Tua also had a injury riddled high school career, a injury riddled college career, and he's had an injury ridden NFL career to the point where I have talked about it, higher or bigger media pundits have talked about the fact of maybe he should think about early retirement just off the fact of how many injuries and how frequently, especially when we talk about concussions, how many they come. I think in a 2 year span, 2 or 3 year span, he had 4 concussions. That is tough. And I know it's hard to look at that national championship and think that, oh, he won a national championship in college. That means that he's clearly one of the better quarterbacks in the league. One year he led the league by this team won the league by far, or led the league, by far in offensive efficiency, passing yards, passing touchdowns. Like this, there was a 2 years ago, or when they first got Tyreek Hill, where this offense was damn near unstoppable. They put up 70 points against a team, against the Broncos. So it's easy, man, to look at Tua and be like, he has all the talent. He should be a Super Bowl caliber team or Super Bowl caliber player. The expectations on Tua mount year after year, but it's like, should it? Obviously, when you pay Tua as much as you pay Tua, which also adds to some of the criticism and adds to some of the pressure. Tua's always been a okay quarterback. Tua's always been a good quarterback. Tua has never been a great quarterback. Because think about it. Even the year where broke all them offensive records as a team, what did they do in the playoffs? We talk about Tua in Alabama winning a national championship. Do you remember? He was a second-string quarterback for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was just having an awful national championship, and then he got benched. I think that not today, but we're talking about it today, so I've come to the conclusion that obviously I want Tua to be healthy, but I don't have much expectations for this team because Tua is their quarterback. And the same way I kind of discuss Justin Herbert, the same way I kind of discuss Trevor Lawrence, I can't keep talking about a player based on potential when they've been in. How long has Tua been in the league? Tua has been in the league, has to be 6 years now. I'm not saying you can't change, but at this point, you kind of are who you are. And I guess what I'm saying is, and we've kind of known this when you talk about his size, we've known this by everything outside of the national championship in college, the ceiling for Tua is, in my opinion, mighty low. And I just don't. I also look at it like this. There was videos of training camp and how they do joint training camps and everything. And I don't remember the team that they were playing, but their defense, the Dolphins' defense, was getting outright torched. Dang, my phone. Was getting outright torched, like to the point where I'm looking like, yo, is this the second team? No, this is the first team getting torched like this. And then I was thinking, if Tua was in a situation like Joe Burrow, had an explosive offense, had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, could he, obviously Joe Burrow last year didn't make it to the playoffs, but could he put up the same numbers and have the Bengals as efficient, offensively at least, as Joe Burrow's? And the answer is hell no. I don't think Tua is good enough to overcome a bad defense. And they have pieces, but if, imagine Bradley Chubb gets hurt, it's curtains. And lastly, it brings me kind of to Mike McDaniels. My question is, when does Corky become annoying? We know about the Mike McDaniel sound bites and how he's just he's an odd character, not in a bad way. It's just what makes him him. And I think his weirdness, for lack of a better term, is a draw when you talk about Mike McDaniels, and the fact of he has been touted as an offensive guru, which I understand. Again, with Mike McDaniels, the Dolphins had one of the most prolific offenses in football. But it's starting to become it's starting to become the same exact script. Mike McDaniels is great as a coach as far as offense, but he kind of misses. They say that some people are great as head coaches and some people are great as coordinators. And I know that you have obviously coordinators and everything, but I look at the totality, the entire team of this Dolphins, I look at the entire Dolphins team and I think to myself, the offense is good when Tua was able to play, but the defense is still shaky. There's still some clock management issues. It's like at some point people are going to get tired, and maybe people are already at that point where they just get tired of the quirkiness. And it's like, it's not producing winning, at least in the playoffs. And as much as we talk about Lamar Jackson, which obviously we will talk about Lamar Jackson when we get to the AFC South, or AFC North, I'm sorry, and we talk about Lamar Jackson's lack of playoff success, that's the entire Dolphins organization. Except the issue is Lamar Jackson has won some playoff games of recently. The Dolphins have not. It feels like every time we talk about the Dolphins, it's the same exact thing. And at that point, it's like, when do you get tired of it? If you do, I don't know. Speaking of get tired of it, and just speaking about Lamar Jackson, even though the groundswell, even though the murmurs, even though the voices aren't as loud as they are when they talk about Lamar Jackson and his need for playoff success, that same need goes for Josh Allen. He just won an MVP last year. It's undoubtedly a top 4 quarterback in this league. I'll say top 3. And I understand the thinking of, well, Josh Allen, he's done a lot with a little, which he has. Last year, he didn't have the big names, even though someone like Khalil Shakur was really good. Keon Coleman was a rookie last year. He should be better. You got James Cook. They didn't have the number 1 receiver name that they didn't have the Stephon Diggs. They didn't have the Tyreek Hill. They didn't have the Travis Kelce, essentially. But he was able to take this Buffalo Bills team, to the AFC Championship. And almost on cue, anytime Josh Allen runs into Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, it doesn't end well for Josh Allen and the Bills. And again, there's a reason why going into this season, they have the Bills as, I think, top 3 or top 4 in Super Bowl odds. A lot of that is because of number 17. The fact that you were able to take a team that didn't have really known weapons and take them to the AFC Championship now. And again, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that these players are necessarily gangbusters. Don't hear me, like, they still don't have a Jamar Chase or whatever, but you got Elijah Moore, Joshua Palmer, who has had a really good training camp. You have a KJ Hamler. Like, you have pieces now. Curtis Samuel's back. You have Chenolz, Laviska. I know I said his name wrong. I apologize, brother. And on top of that, you have a solid defense, man. You have Matt Milano, who missed a lot of the season with injury, but came back from the playoffs and was good. You have one of the best tackles in Deion Dawkins. Like, at some point, bro, you're going. Now, I still don't know if the back end of the defense is going to be good enough, and I think that was one of their biggest Achilles heel last year. I know their biggest acquisition was Joey Bosa, but that doesn't help with the back end of the defense. AJ Espinoza should be good, but who is their corners? Let me see what their corners are like. Ed Oliver is really good, but he's not a corner, obviously. Yeah, man. I'm just saying it like this. You have Dalton Connect, you have or Kincaid, I'm sorry, you have Dawson Knox. They have a squad, bro. And that's something that you couldn't really say the last year, is that they didn't really have a deep team, and their team got better. Again, I wonder how there's. Hopefully, they can get to the quarterback fast enough, because their secondary ain't the best. But even with all that, Josh Allen was still able to win the MVP, even though I don't think he should have won it. And they were still able to make it to the AFC Championship. It's like, again, I understand that the conversation isn't as loud when we talk about Josh Allen compared to Lamar Jackson as far as playoff humps, but there is a conversation. Josh Allen, as great as he's been, when are you going to get over the hump? When are you going to slay that proverbial Patrick Mahomes playoff dragon? Because I think in the regular season, Josh Allen has a winning record against Patrick Mahomes. But as we always know, the regular season is not the playoffs. If that's the case, Lamar Jackson would have had a Super Bowl by now. Lamar Jackson has a just stupidly good record against the NFC. So when he wins the Super Bowl, but he's got to get there. And then I look at Sean McDermott. He is feasting, and he is just the prime example of being rewarded from having a good quarterback. Because a lot of the issues that people have had with Sean McDermott, whether we talk about some of the play calling, some of the decision making, some of the clock management, reared its head last year, but you had an all-world year from Josh Allen that it allowed you to, as great as he was, as good as he was at making a lot with a little, you were able to overlook that. But it's like think about it. If Lamar Jackson didn't throw 2 interceptions, throw an interception and fumble the ball, I apologize. And if Mark Andrews didn't fumble the ball and not catch that 2-point conversion, we could be talking about the Bills much differently, saying as this was yet another year where they hosted a playoff game and they lost. That's what we could have been talking. I know if was a fifth, but the expectations have to be high for this team. There's no way that we can praise and talk about how good of a quarterback Josh Allen is. He is one of those quarterbacks. When we were talking about Justin Fields, and it's very hard to find a quarterback that can rise above a lot of issues, Josh Allen is one of them. It's just, when you're as good as him, when you're as good as Patrick Mahomes, when you're as good as Lamar Jackson, when you're as good as Joe Burrow, it is always championship or bust for a team. Right now, you kind of feel the same way about the Eagles. Seems like they just won and they have arguably the best team in football. It is championship or bust. And I think that I'm not mad at the fact of them being considered, the second best team, or maybe even the first best team in the AFC right now. Last year, obviously they didn't make it, but they had the MVP. So we'll see. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills fall into a category where while it matters where you place, the conversation around them is never going to be as loud in the regular season than it is in the playoffs. That's just how good they are. That's just how good he is. He can go undefeated. The Bills can go 17-0 in the regular season. The conversation still will not be as loud if they lose game 1 in the playoffs, or the criticism. They can have a really good year, but if they lose, especially if they lose to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, boy, this is a big year for Josh Allen and the Bills. And I talk about it with the Chiefs, not the Chiefs. I talk about with the Bengals. The championship window isn't always going to remain open. Now, obviously, we're talking about a team that hasn't been to the Super Bowl since Jim Kelly. But I know how great Josh Allen is, but as we've seen countless times, even with this team, that's not all. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a Super Bowl caliber team or you're going to compete for a Super Bowl. And this is yet another year where Josh Allen gets older. This is yet another year where the defensive players get older, where the offensive line gets older. At some point, you either break through that door or you don't. And I'm not saying that this has to be the year to do it, but it's like, at what point, We'll see. Speaking of we'll see, lastly, I think this is going to be actually, I don't know. That is the New England Patriots. I think we have to see what Justin Fields and them look like and the Jets look like, but I'm looking at this team, this Patriots team, and they look like a Patriots team in the sense of they looked heavily at the defense. Like they got Carlton Davis III. Obviously, Christian Gonzalez is still there. He's really good. Jay Hawkins, they got. This is a team that focuses heavy on the defense. Hell, you can even look at their coach, Mike Vrabel. And we're going to talk about Mike Vrabel in a second, but I'll say this. Let me try to be positive. We've seen flashes, even early on, of how good Drake May can be. Drake May has shown why he was drafted as high as he was. I was a little like, he played for North Carolina. And no offense to North Carolina, because obviously I'm a big North Carolina fan when it comes to basketball, but when we talk about North Carolina football, they don't really, you're going up against Dukes and Cals. That's not the cream of the crop talent. And Drake May, a lot of people say that it was kind of like the Justin Herbert situation in the sense of Justin Herbert was so good in Oregon and people around him just weren't on his level that it kind of brought his value down. Okay. Could be the case. But what I'm saying is last year he showed I was very vocal in saying I don't think he should start until they address the offensive line, because last year they had by far one of, if not the worst offensive lines in football. And they kind of addressed it, but what they did do, and they also didn't have really any pieces at all last year. They had Kendrick Bourne, I think, and that was about it. They definitely addressed the position, the wide receiver and running back position. Now, is it going to be enough? I don't know. But when you look at the running back position, they got Antonio Gibson, Trayvon Henderson that they got from the draft, Ohio State. He looks like he can be phenomenal. And they obviously had Ramondre Stevenson. And at the wide receiver position, they damn near overhaul. You got Stephon Diggs. You got Mac Hollins. He's from North Carolina too. But that played with Josh Allen last year, Mr. No Shoes. I don't know if Jalen Polk is going to make it. He hasn't really looked like he had a great camp, but you got some pieces. Demario Douglas, you got some pieces. And they did address the offensive line. I'm not saying that it's top tier. I don't know, but I don't think that there shouldn't be much expectation. Actually, you know what? With a quarterback as young as Drake May is, with a new head coach, with a non-experienced team, essentially, I think that. Well, that's not even true, because you still have Hunter Henry, Austin. Like, you got vets. I just don't expect much from the team. Well, the team, and we were talking about this last episode when we were talking about the AFC East, South, talking about the AFC South, and we were talking about Mike Vrabel teams. Obviously, Mike Vrabel was the longtime head coach for the Tennessee Titans, and I said that the Tennessee Titans, to their credit, has always had a really good defense. You can say a lot of that is because of Mike Vrabel. And when you look at I know they had Bill Belichick, I know they had Tom Brady, but when you look at those Patriots teams, those Super Bowl Patriots teams, one thing that they always had, it felt like, was a top-tier defense. When we talk about Dante Hightower, when we talk about Ty Law, like they they had a defense. And I'm not saying that this is a Super Bowl caliber team, not even close. I'm also not saying that this is a Super Bowl caliber defense. But what I'm saying is they have a great defensive coach, and they have really good pieces on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you have Jabril Peppers at the safety. They got some people. And I think that they're going to be a really good defensive team, because that's one thing that we know that Mike Vrabel can coach, and that is a good defense. But that kind of brings me to the next part of this, Mike Vrabel. One word, or one phrase, one slogan that I absolutely hate in sports is heat culture. I hate heat culture because there's no such thing as a heat culture. There's such thing as Pat Riley making smart moves. There's such thing as getting someone like Dwayne Wade in the draft, being able to get Shaq in a trade, being able to have LeBron James and Chris Bosh want to go to Miami. There's such thing as having Jimmy Butler lead your team to two NBA finals. I just don't think there's heat culture. They just had really good players. Another phrase that I absolutely hate is the Patriots way. Because what is that? Oh, you're saying the Patriots way when they had the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady? Are you talking about the Patriots way where they had arguably the greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick? Where they had incredible defensive players, where they had to go against the AFC East for the longest, when it didn't have Josh Allen, or when Josh Allen was young and they were just going against just bums at the quarterback position in the AFC East for the longest, so it's easy for the Patriots to win, at least win the division, where the next best quarterback in the conference was Peyton Manning for the longest, and then they didn't have to worry about going against someone like Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or something like that, because they were just going to beat themselves. Because they were like, I say all that to say this, man. They tried with Gerard Mayo They tried that whole Patriots way because he's a former player under Bill Belichick. Didn't work. Tried Matt Patricia. Didn't work. Tried, was it Josh McDaniels? Didn't work. I want the best for Mike Vrabel, but it's just expectations, bro. I don't know what Patriots way Mike Vrabel is going to bring. I think that he's going to bring a good defense because that's the track record that he has. But it's like, oh, he's gonna bring that Patriots way. What is that? Like, oh, they're just a good team. No, they're not gonna be a good team. I don't think so. They'll be a good defense, but I mean, your best receiver, your best offensive player outside of Drake May is a receiver that's coming off a torn ACL. I wish nothing but the best for Stephon Diggs, but that's him and Kendrick Bourne. Your running back is Antonio Gibson, who came back from last year, who wasn't that great last year, and Ramondre Stevenson. Oh, you do have Trayvon Hendrickson. But he's a rookie. I just don't. It's like, I also feel like, and I felt like this for a minute. I also feel like the Patriots might benefit from having someone outside of the Bill Belichick tree. Like having someone fresh, having someone new. Obviously, the fans would have to accept them, but it hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. You're trying to operate and run a team as if the same components are always still there, which they're not. Drake May, even though he was good last year, Drake May ain't Tom Brady. Mike Vrabel, Gerard Mayo, they're not they're not Bill Belichick. I just feel like some perspective needs to be had. And maybe seeing as though you keep trying to hire someone from that Bill Belichick tree, and I hope for nothing but success for Mike Vrabel, but you try to hire someone on that Bill Belichick tree, it didn't work. Maybe it's time to venture out. Because last time I think about it, when's the last time that the Patriots were good or looked at as a playoff team? Oh, yeah, when they had Tom Brady. So, and Bill Belichick. So, I don't know, man. The AFC East, like I said at the start of the show, is one team and then three other teams. It is the Buffalo Bills. And you see how I'm pointing up. It is the Buffalo Bills that is up there. Clear cut, best team in the division. And then I would probably say it's the Dolphins. And I think it's pretty much a coin toss between the Jets. Well, no, because I think the Jets have a better roster. So I'll say Jets and then the Patriots. Again, if you want to know, and I'm not taking away from any of their greatness, but if you want to know why it felt like it was easy for Tom Brady at least to have a high seeding going into the playoffs damn near every year. This is what they had. This is kind of how the Bills are looked at in the AFC East, and then compared to everyone else is kind of how the Patriots were. Like you have Josh Allen, and then you have Tua, Drake May, Justin Fields. Like, what is? I don't think that this is kind of because I said this about the AFC South. I said that the Houston Texans should win, and if they don't win the AFC South, something. It's just a huge letdown because I don't really see any other team competing. Not the Jaguars, not the Colts. I mean, we just saw Anthony Richardson completely miss a read and got drilled and dislocated his pinky. Like, he completely missed that read. It was a basic read, too, from what a lot of people are saying. I know I don't play football, but what a lot of people are saying, it is a basic quarterback read that he just whiffed on. So if the Texans don't win it or win that division, I say all that to say the if the Bills don't win the AFC East, something catastrophic has happened to the Bills. Whether Josh Allen gets hurt, which, knock on wood, you don't hope that for anybody, but there's not a path. There is not a team that is close to the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, that makes me think that they should sleep uncomfortably at night because they can't win the division. Hell no. It's the Bills and nobody else. Again, Buffalo. Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. That is my breakdown of the AFC East. Next episode. You know what? I think next episode I'm going to tackle the AFC West because I want to save the most compelling division in the AFC as the last AFC division that I talk about. And we'll talk. So, yeah, next episode, I'm probably going to talk about the AFC West. Lastly, before we go, in no way, shape, or form am I blaming the WNBA for, I think, 5 times at this point in a span of 2 weeks that there has been a person coming into the what in God's name, Jalen? Coming into the WNBA games and throwing sexual objects onto the court. I mean, hell, they're throwing dildos onto the court. I'm not, in no way, shape, or form am I solely blaming the WNBA for people being ignorant and disrespecting not just the game that is women's basketball, or respecting the game of basketball, but essentially bringing weapons to an arena. I'm not blaming the WNBA for that. What I am, however, blaming the WNBA for is, how does this continue? How do we get to 5 incidences? How? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know how. I don't know what needs to be done. I don't know what needs to be said. But in no way, shape, or form would you have 2 incidences, and if I'm the WNBA, I step in and be like, all right, we have to change the way that we conduct screenings coming in. Like, these metal detectors just ain't cutting it, clearly. These pat downs ain't cutting it. So we got to figure something out. Because what this is doing is, you know how they say that all publicity is good publicity, whether it's good or bad? This is not the case. I think that, again, I'm not blaming the WNBA for this, but what this is making it look like is they do not have their ish together. It's making it seem like they don't understand how to police situations like this. People have said, "Oh, this is a second tier sports league." When stuff like this continues to happen and it doesn't seem like any change is happening, that kind of brings credence to that thought. I may not think that, it's definitely not, but that's what's happening. I don't know what the WNBA needs to do. I don't know if they need to, I don't know what they have to do. I don't know if they can do anything when it comes to these venues, when it comes to these arenas. How do you change the screening policy? Again, I'm not blaming the WNBA for it happening. This is just rogue people disrespecting the game of basketball, disrespecting these women, disrespecting the sport, disrespecting the game. That's what's happening. But it doesn't seem like the WNBA, if they can, is putting anything in place for this not to happen. Because I was thinking about it. Whether with David Stern or with Adam Silver, obviously ain't nobody about to throw. And that's because obviously these people are blatantly disrespecting women. But ain't nobody about to throw no dildo into an NBA. Imagine LeBron, the Lakers and Golden State's playing. And Steph Curry is running down the court. LeBron James is running down the court. Luka Doncic is running down the court. And a dildo comes within a couple inches of hitting Steph Curry. Or a dildo hits LeBron James at an NBA game. Trust and believe that will be the first and last time that ever happens at an NBA game. I don't know if it takes money. I don't know what it takes, but it's just like, it doesn't seem like this continues to happen. How? I understand that you probably have to wear it. You probably have to put it in your pants. I get it. But how in the hell do you keep? This is the 5th incident. And one of them, I believe, hit a player. It's got to get it together, bro. It's got to get it together. There you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate all of you guys for your support. If you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. It definitely means a lot. Oh, and please share. I cannot do it without you guys. So please spread the word. Also, for all my DSP listeners, that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, same thing. Please subscribe. Please follow. If you like the content, please spread. Please share. Rate it. I think I'm trying to get a high rating as well. If you like the episode, I'm trying to grow the podcast as much as I can, and I cannot do it without you guys. And I do appreciate everyone that has continued to support me and that will continue to support me, and the new people that are supporting. I appreciate you all. For my socials, Instagram, TikTok, SoundCloud, or Facebook, please follow, please subscribe. That's probably the quickest way to get to me. I post pretty much reels every day, stories. I don't mind going back and forth. If you keep it respectful, I understand that you have an opinion about something, even if it's different from mine. Leave it in the comments. Again, I don't mind going back and forth. I don't mind debating. It just means you're listening to me. You have an opinion, and you care about whatever we're talking about. All three I definitely care about, but keep it respectful, and I don't mind debating. I don't mind going back and forth. Just please follow. Please subscribe to the socials. Until next time, much love.